All right, thanks for tuning in to the first episode of the Splatt Show. I am your co-host Hayden Platt,
And I am Sam Fields.
partner in crime here. As if you've seen the post out, Splat Show is out here basically to um, break a new mold in the podcast scene. There's a lot of podcasts for video games and things like that, but most of them are done by reviewers and critics and things like that, who typically have a background line mostly in just playing and reviewing games. Sam and I have been going to school together for, gosh, way back since
Like a
middle
long
school.
time.
Yeah, but most recently we've been at UC Santa Cruz studying computer game design. This has involved a lot of different things. Most recently, we've been developing each separately. We've been working on these year-long games and everything that just launched in June. I was developing a cooperative VR horror game title with a great group of people, and Sam can tell you a little bit about his project.
Yeah, I was developing a Twitch integrated like arena uh, chicken collecting game called Featherweight.
Yeah, that's Featherweight, and then the other one is called Shackle, the horror game that I was working on. So, exciting stuff. And in the past, we've worked together on a ton of different game projects. We're actually still working together on one right now. So, a lot of history between the two of us. And yeah, we've gab about games all day long, and we figured, why not put some structure to it and let some people make their commute a little less painful. Yeah, going in today's episode, we're gonna have a focus on Shovel Knight, a game that we both got recently and played through. And the idea here is to kind of use that as a jumping off point, and we're gonna go into how they captured the retro aesthetic and what worked and what didn't. So to start off, let's just talk about what worked, or just the first impressions of Shovel Knight. As you started it up, as you moved around. What'd you think?
Right. So I mean, you had kind of told me like, hey, you should definitely play this. Like, kind of know that I'm someone who's into like kind of action games, like old school action games and platformers and things like that. So my first impressions were super positive, and I was just kind of like, oh, they totally nailed the like, the Game Boy Color like look and the sound, and I could just like see all the different influences were so like clearly there. Like, oh, this reminds me of a little bit of Castlevania and a little bit of Zelda 2, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Like, oh, tons of Mega Man in there too.
Yeah,
So I was
definitely.
like, so I was like super into that. Um, just from like that's just like from a a visual and like audio standpoint, but also it really, I mean, it handles like a. I mean, I don't know. I think it has a little bit more like polish than a lot of older titles in terms
Yeah,
of just like freedom of movement and things like that, which is also really great.
yeah. So when I started it up, I definitely, pretty much the first, word that kept screaming into my head was Mega Man. Like, it was just oozing it, and I mean, the menu is very NES in how it's kind of an all black background. You have that logo in the top center, and then it's like new game and start game or whatever in pixely font. But yeah, as I started to play the first level and get a feel and everything, visually and soundly, there's a word for that. Uh,
I don't know what it is.
Auditorily or something. Who knows? I was finding that like it was all masking the fact that Shovel Knight was built on a better basis than say Mega Man, where the older Mega Man's like I'm specifically going to fixate on Mega Man 2 when I refer to that just because that's the one I'm most
Okay.
familiar with.
Yeah.
But like the way the character moves and everything, it all just kind of feels a little more fluid
Yeah.
despite the animations and the sound still being a little more primitive, which is a great backing for that. Because I think if they were to have it feel really similar in terms of movement and everything, like to a T to Mega Man. It would almost feel a little dated, whereas now it feels like this
Yeah, I mean,
strong revival.
they completely have their own like, even if it does have so many like nods to Mega Man, like they have, their own set of mechanics that feels fresh. It's like you got the shovel and you've got like all these moves you can do with the shovel. Um, like whereas, Mega Man was just about like shooting,
Yeah,
I
and I think
think. I mean, I'm not super familiar with the old Mega Man games, but I think there was more like shooting versus like, I mean, here you've got like your down shovel move and stuff like that.
yeah, which is honestly one of the highlights of the game for me. I think it's just a beautiful capitalization on like a tried and true concept, which made Mario so strong and everything. Um, and you find yourself like pretty much whenever I could in the game, I was trying to down shovel an enemy. And for those not familiar, basically you can hold down while you're in the air, and you then have the power to bounce off of enemies as you land on top of them, very much like you would in Mario or something like that. So great for comboing bosses. Yeah, the melee only
Yeah.
approach was interesting and definitely one of the big, or the arguably the biggest like set apart from the Mega Man series. With the exception of it kind of throws in this cool item system, like almost akin to maybe the old Zelda
Which
games.
that reminds me of I think I want to say like Castlevania a lot. Like I'm even thinking of there's one specific item that you like toss it in an arc, and I know there's an item like exactly analogous to that in like the first Castlevania. So yeah,
Right,
they have
and
that same like item system
there's
where you
another.
or
Uh,
you like hold up B to like use it and everything.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's another, great element. Mega Man definitely has the what you call it. The as you beat a boss, you kind of get a power, and it works in a similar way where in each world you visit as Shovel Knight, there's kind of a power uh, that if you find it, it's hidden away in a chest. There's a
Right.
man inside the chest, and he'll sell you whatever this magic amulet is or whatever it is that lets you do some sort of special ability. So allows for like a diversity of play styles.
Right. I was like once I had like missed a couple of those and I was talking to you and you were like, "Oh, you didn't get this item, like this was hidden in that level or whatever." Then I was just seriously like looking out for little secrets. And usually like the way they designed it like in the level is like, if you just run in a room and you start like destroying everything like blindly, like you're probably going to miss the secret. Like maybe there's an enemy you have to like bounce off of to get to a like a isolated platform and like that's the secret.
right.
But so I think the way they hide those things, like, if you really want to find the secret, you kind of have to be like actually paying attention. Like you can't just be on autopilot through the game, which is cool.
Yeah, definitely. I think the secrets were a big sell for me. I mean, I'm a big JRPG fan, so a lot of the kind of the joke behind that is that you check every nook and cranny in every possible place, and if there's a room with a chest in it, you would just assume that you can open it even if you're in some stranger's house and they're right there. So but like I'm always trying to squeeze every last drop out, and then I end Final Fantasy with like 99 potions that I'll never use, but I got them all. So good like distribution of secrets. Sometimes it was just currency based, and other times it was rewards like these weapons and things. On a different end, one of my biggest thoughts is I kind of feel like I need to go play this game again because the first boss that I fought after the initial boss, it kind of opens up after that.
Yeah.
I found a secret item there that basically allows you to, well, on use, it will use a percentage of your magic pool that you have left. Excuse me. But it would make you invincible, and I do not think I would have beaten this game if I did not have that item. I pretty much left that thing equipped throughout the entire game, and I thought it felt good to use. Like it still required tactics and everything, but it kind of was just this. easy button where it was just like, oh, this is like a tight space, like I need to just, or like, oh, I don't know what to do here, or I'm really screwed, so like I'm gonna press this button and then I'll be invincible for the next 3 seconds. And
Right.
a lot of boss fights for me still had an element of learning them, but part of learning them was like, oh, I can't even dodge this move. I don't even know how, so I'm gonna just use the invincibility thing whenever it comes by, which
Right.
again is kind of concerning because yes, it still felt good to use, but I was feeling pigeonholed as the world's only got harder, and where like I would try the other magic tools and everything, but like there were just too many times where I wish I had that specific magic item equipped. And so on the whole, I found myself running with that for most of the game.
Right. I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether I even found that item or not, but and I'm not done with the game, but I'm pretty far, but I haven't really been using that. But it like, it's been really hard. It's been like
It's
really hard.
it's tough
It's a
with it.
tough which that makes me want to bring up how like this game also kind of reminds me of like Dark Souls and Demon Souls just because of not only like the crazy difficulty of the game
Mm,
and how like each level just you kind of have to really grind on it sometimes,
yeah,
but also they have this like system where like when you die you drop treasure, you drop like a good amount of your treasure, and then to get that treasure back you have to like replay the level and you have to go back to that spot where you died and grab the treasure. uh
and if you die
with
on the way, then it's gone forever.
yeah, then it's gone. So it's like straight out of Demon Souls, but like I thought that was also like a really good little modern like twist that was thrown in there because I mean it had the same kind of effect that it did in Demon Souls where I was just like, oh, you know, I need to go and play this level again right now to get my treasure back. Like I know I can do it, and then I'll
Yeah,
go try
and
and do it.
there's definitely like a frustrating cycle I encountered a few times where I would lose some treasure, go back to try and get it, lose more on my way to get it, and then lose more. And I guess kind of the saving grace of Shovel Knight is that if you decide to quit a level or a world in the midst of playing it, you just kind of get set back to whatever money you had before you walked in. So, it sometimes I would just get too far in the hole. I'd be like, okay, well, I just threw away all my gold. I'm just gonna, go ahead and quit and come back to this,
Right.
another time. And I think that's kind of a good point for me, just because I don't know. I definitely appreciate it as like a Dark Souls element and everything, but I don't know. Yeah, there was just some times where treasure could get dropped in really precarious places, or sometimes it was actually
Yeah, sometimes
unobtainable.
yeah, sometimes it was totally unobtainable. I did notice that, and that is I don't know. Yeah, that was frustrating. I agree.
Okay, and then before we move on, we got to talk about this because we both, as we were kind of chatting on Discord as we were playing and stuff, every now and then, I got to hear your thoughts while you were playing against a certain boss, and you can
Right.
answer that one
Okay.
for me.
Right. So it was Plague Night, and this was
Yeah.
like pretty early in the game, but I was like, I was just totally just banging my head against this boss, and like it was crazy because it was so early in the game, but it was just a really difficult boss that kind of just kept moving around unpredictably. Uh, and like I just kept getting hit by it. So
Yeah, Plague Knight's APM is like off the charts. Like,
so like
goodness.
like no boss after that has even been that hard. And this was maybe like the second or third boss.
Yeah.
So I was just like cursing a bunch, and I think that was like one thing that I don't know, because it almost made me want to like drop the game because it was so early in the game, and also like it felt very like old school the way that Plague Knight would like do a move. He would like do some kind of motion, and I don't even remember the specifics, but like he would do a move and then he would just immediately do the next move. So there's like no even like perceived cooldown in between moves, which
Time for reaction too.
yeah, which yeah. So I was just getting hit, and I was just getting hit again right after that, and like I just kept getting hit, and then I was like, wow, how do I beat this boss? And then like one time after just like playing it for like 30 minutes straight, just over and over, like I just like got lucky and did a bunch of like down shovels on his head and like killed him, and then I was just like, huh.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I
that's
don't feel that good about this.
no. So that I felt very similarly about that fight. I was kind of tentative to say anything until you got to it, but yeah, it's just this rapid fire of what feels like random and unpredictable behavior from this small and very agile boss.
Yeah, and I think I just like there's definitely something about the behavior where it just doesn't move and then it immediately goes into the next move that I mean I can't even name like a specific game right now, but it just feels very like, something that would be in an old school title.
Right, where
Like
things
just
were
that
tougher.
yeah, just yeah, those unforgiving just strings of moves. Um so like that was one little thing that kind of felt old school that I like didn't like that much. But um,
Yeah, whereas,
I don't know.
you look at another boss like Spectre Knight, the kind of Grim Reaper boss in the
Yeah,
first zone.
yeah.
And
No,
I
that
thought
one was
that
great.
boss was great because it's kind of a bigger target. It but it kind of has this array of moves that it can use, but all of them, you know, typically have some sort of weak spot within them and like a reactive window where at first I was just getting my butt spanked, but as I played it more, I came to realize some of the finer details in the openings. Whereas with Plague Knight, I just would feel like, wow, I got close that time, but that's only because like he chose to execute this one like uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Like vulnerable pattern. And then I would fight him
Yeah.
again and get nowhere near as far. And I think the time I won, I probably had like 30 seconds of invincibility in the entire fight. Like
Oh
I would
wow.
just spam
Okay.
it sometimes, and I was just
Yeah.
like, we're not going to talk about it. We're done. But yeah, definitely felt that was kind of an out of place boss. Not only in terms of just pacing within the game itself. I don't know that any other boss felt as difficult. Even the
Okay.
final
Yeah.
boss.
Yeah.
And
Plague Knight, man.
in just such a non-learnable way, it felt like, where
Yeah.
I I didn't feel like I was progressing. I just felt like Plague Knight's backlog of actions and everything happened to be in my favor that one time.
Right. I mean, yeah. Maybe we need to watch some YouTube videos like how to most efficiently kill Plague Knight.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I mean, the game has a big speedrunning community.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, so that's something too I'd be interested to talk about more some other time. Is kind of this
Yeah, that'd be cool.
trend of speedrunning, and I think Shovel Knight was definitely designed with the capacity for speedrunning. Excuse me, in mind.
Right. Totally.
So again, I'm gonna be quick on this so we can move ahead. But you didn't fight Tinker Knight yet, did you?
I'm not sure. No, I don't think I did. No, I
Okay.
don't think I did.
So that was I actually liked the boss fight a fair amount, but the like level leading up to Tinker Knight, like I was ready to pull my hair out. Like, and it was for a very similar reason where Shovel Knight feels good when it is a challenge that you can foreseeably overcome, whereas a lot of Tinker Knight's level felt to me like just random bogus, where it was like, oh, you
Right.
like shoveled this wall away, well, like enemies popped out, like you take
Okay.
damage, and it's like, where's like that doesn't really like do anything for me, like unless I have like inhuman reaction time or am predisposed to the fact that it's going to be there, like I'm just going to take that hit. And yeah, lots of just odd communicated things. Like there were these big yellow gears that rolled by, and I was like, oh, well, I can probably just jump on top of them and down shovel, and I'll be fine. And like,
Right.
there's no down shovel collider. You just fall right into it and die. And I was just like, that doesn't really make any sense.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know. It just
The yellow gears sound familiar. I might be like on that level.
Okay. Well, yeah,
But
you'll have to let me know what you think and stuff. But that
yeah,
was
yeah,
just the one
totally.
where I was like getting pretty fed up, and I really think a lot of the level design in that game is really strong and kind of they explore a lot of different
Yeah, so
micro
it feels like
mechanics really
they're
well.
they're throwing in little special mechanics on every level that are like interesting to play with. Like
Like you fought Propeller Knight, right?
um Propeller Knight.
Up on the airship.
Yeah, I think I did.
Okay, well that kind of had that homage to the old Super Mario games where you kind of are down shoveling on cannonballs that are moving across the screen.
Right. Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool. The underwater I thought was done really well, where it just kind of boosts your jump height and things like that.
Yeah, I'm thinking of there was one really unique thing. I don't remember what level this was, but there was like this like floating fountain that you could stand on, and you would hit it, and it would leave behind like a rainbow trail that you
Oh,
could walk on,
yeah, that
and then
was the
just kind of
the ice place.
you just like float your way around on this weird like I mean I don't even know what it was supposed to be, but it was just like an interesting thing they threw in there for that level.
Definitely.
So
And
yeah, I mean I agree. There's like every level has something cool to mess with that you kind of have to figure out.
yeah, they. So I would say, yeah, all in all, um, a lot of really great decisions made on Shovel Knight. You plan on beating it. I did beat it.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
I've gone back
Just
for a
it's
few of the
crashing on
achievements
my
and things.
computer, but I'm enjoying it.
What can you do? So yeah, so this Shovel Knight, I think I know it was up for some, and we're definitely a little late on this train, but it was up for some awards at the IGF. Do you remember when we were at GDC a couple years ago?
Yeah.
So I'm not remembering if it took any of those, but it was definitely received some acclaim, definitely within the indie space and things like that. I think this was Yacht Club's premier game, um, and they,
Yeah.
clearly set a precedent, which was, at least for now, the fact that they know how to execute a retro feeling game in kind of this modern space. And
Yeah, it's super polished and super fun.
mhm. So uh, we already talked a little bit about like the sound and things like that, but what is we talked about a lot of the positives and the easy stuff like art, sound, and all that is keeping the retro aesthetic. But how are they? Kind of the question is how are they doing it such that it feels old but plays like new?
Yeah, and I think I mean it's just a mix of that like a lot of the mechanics that are there are just like clearly informed by older games, but just the amount of like polish and then also the mechanics like dropping the money and having to go retrieve the money and things like that make it feel new.
Mhm. So the modern influence is kind of alongside of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I'm trying to think of other kind of new age examples. It was definitely after the retro period, but Cave Story comes to mind. Um,
Yeah,
I think that's a
definitely.
game that similarly, I absolutely adore that game. I beat it in one night.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
just out of nowhere, didn't even know what the game was and started it up and fell in love. So, I
That's
mean,
an amazing.
you're not even like at the time I wasn't even really caught up. I was enjoying the art style and the feel and everything, but most of all, I thought the gameplay and the story was incredible. And so I would say that those are really the two things that you should evolve when trying to recreate this retro feel. Is I think the storytelling in some of the older titles is a little bit less inspired, or in some cases, uh, what's the word? Uh, Not so politically correct. Let's go with there's
Oh, okay.
and you have also there's kind of this sense of the teams were smaller back then, and now it kind of is more reasonable to have a dedicated writer and things like that. So um, making sure, and like Shovel Knight 2 does a good job with most of its boss fights, right? Of kind of creating this good
Yeah,
atmosphere,
definitely.
but making sure that, yeah, like we were saying, it's like, oh yeah, old games used to be way harder. That's not really a good like crutch to rely on as release this game.
Right. It
Probably,
is hard, but usually it's like fair,
yeah. And I
And a
think
lot of old games aren't.
right, and I think Dark Souls was probably a little bit of a guiding light because it's clear that they definitely wanted to make a challenging experience here, but how do you make that challenging experience keep the new age of players' attention, which is usually like a shorter amount of gosh, I just can't keep my words today. A shorter amount of like patience for like activities or like the amount of grit needed to like beat a boss or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of talk about how all the corners are being rounded and everything, and it's a lot more. Diablo 3 is transitioning that way, where it's just like an experience that we're not gonna like really make you slow down and level or anything. So.
Okay.
I think Dark Souls is definitely one of the outliers where it's this challenging game that people just still find themselves enraptured in.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the same kind of thing for sure.
So yeah, we'll hopefully be keeping an eye out. Again, this game does have a few years on it now, so I'm sure Yacht Club is up to something fun and new. I'm gonna actually look that up real quick. Looks like, and they have been doing a lot of work with the Wii U. I know they put out that great update for Shovel Knight on there that allowed for co-op and things like that, which I think is just awesome.
Yeah.
So we were talking, we're probably gonna have to get that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not doing anything with my Wii U right now, so yeah.
Definitely. Okay, so it looks like they've published recently Azure Striker Gunvolt Striker Pack.
What?
That is a physical compilation of Azure Striker Gunvolt and Azure Striker Gunvolt 2. This is a mouthful right now. But yeah, it looks like they put out.
I don't know what that is.
I'm
gonna look this up.
So they are now, maybe they are just a publisher now. I don't know. But that is on their Wikipedia page, so now you know. It doesn't say anything else is in the pipeline, so maybe they're just in a bit of an R&D phase right now and working with making some publisher connections, which either way is great. I'll probably have to check out this Azure Striker Gunvolt Striker Pack sometime. So let's shift directions here a little bit. Let's go into we're going to be a little bit on the snail mail train here, just because we're getting this podcast up and going. We were a little bit of ways out on the prep, but last week the Pokemon Go Plus was announced, which is basically the wristband accessory for Pokemon Go that looks like a Pokeball mixed with a what do you call it? Like the Google Maps pin, yeah.
Oh right. Okay.
And then it's just like a watch on your wrist. So you have this one button in the center, just like where the Pokeball button is, and basically you can. My understanding is you can push the button to it'll kind of vibrate. The watch will vibrate and light up when you're near a Pokestop, and so without pulling out your phone, without waiting for the app to start up, praying that you log in successfully, you can just kind of push that button. Assumably, you'd have to have the app running, on your phone and everything, but kind of makes it so that you can walk around without staring straight down, and hopefully less of a hazard there. And then also, there's like talk that you can catch Pokemon that you've already caught. You can attempt to catch them by.
Right. So here on the website it says when a Pokemon is near, the light will flash. Then you can press the button to throw a Pokeball, and it will flash and vibrate to let you know if you were successful. So, I mean, it doesn't say whether it's necessarily like only Pokemon you've already caught.
Sure.
But
so to me, this just sounds like Pokemon Go wanted to participate in like the next one button jam game jam, and like not really like I don't know. I don't necessarily know if I agree. They've basically simplified down most of what already exists aside from battling, which was never
Yeah.
my favorite aspect,
Yeah,
to pressing a
totally.
button with no sort of visual feedback or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I actually like this idea as far as like um hitting it to like get stops. Just cuz I mean, I don't know, in my like daily routine there's just like a fixed number of stops that I kind of walk past
Mhm.
like if I'm at work or something, you know? So like it would be nice to just continue on my way and just like hit a button and get that stop, you know?
Sure.
Like I think that's like pretty fine, but I don't know how I feel about using it to actually catch Pokemon because like I feel like that is most of the game is walking around and catching Pokemon, and they have a little like engaging activity in there for you to catch Pokemon with. Um, so like I don't know. I don't think they should replace that with just hitting a button on your watch.
Right. And it's, kind of, yeah.
Although I mean maybe this just makes it more about like kind of going into your phone and like organizing your Pokemon and things like that. But it really takes out kind of the entire like it makes it more of a passing activity that you just do as you're passing by.
Yeah,
And
it's like you are now, at that point, like you're just like a rat in a lab who, pushes the button and cheese comes out. It's
right,
just like,
yeah,
oh, it lit up. Like I'll
yeah.
push it and like rewards will come to my phone.
And
Like,
like I think right now they have this great thing where people are going out together and like they're hopefully they're paying attention to their surroundings or whatever, but they're like being like, "Oh, hey, look, like Jigglypuff just popped up," and then they're all getting out their phones and they're all like catching Pokemon together and they're like capturing gyms together and stuff.
I'm
Uh,
just waiting for that one person who's just like walking around and they press the button and it like says they caught something and then like later that night they finally open the app and they just pulled a Dragonite in the middle of their day and had no idea and they're just like, what the hell?
yeah, just like all right.
So
Yeah,
30.
right. It takes away the excitement of you being like, "Hey, everyone, like, Dragonite's here," you know. So
Yes. So I don't know. I imagine it'll sell reasonably well. $35. Do you see yourself buying one?
um, gosh, I don't know. I actually haven't been playing the game much lately. Um, but I don't. I'm about to get back into it, so we'll see. We'll see.
All right. Yeah, I'm interested to see how it goes. I definitely, from my end, I have uninstalled the game. I kind of lost interest in the midst of the whole
Right.
loss of tracker
Actually,
fiasco.
so even more recently, they added buddies. So that was like today, I think, or maybe like yesterday.
Okay. See, we
So
see we got some topical news right here for you.
yeah, and like lucky me, I've got my dad sending me Facebook messages, just being like, "Hey, look, check out my progress on Pokemon and everything," like all the time.
Shout out
So
to Ken Fields.
shout out to Ken. So like apparently you can choose a Pokemon as your buddy, and that Pokemon like it appears next to your avatar, um, and for every 5 kilometers you walk with that Pokemon, you get like some amount of candy. That's what I understand, and I think that's really good
Yeah,
because
definitely.
like sometimes like there's Pokemon that I just never see. So like I mean I have like a few Ammonites, but like unless I go to some place with hella Ammonites, like I'm not gonna get enough candy to evolve it. So if I really wanted to, I could make Ammonite my buddy, and then I could just like walk around and grind on that, and I think that's cool.
Or yeah, or keep a Magikarp in your pocket for like a
Yeah,
year until you finally get that.
that 400 candies you need to get Gyarados.
Yeah,
That's
which I
nuts.
can appreciate them staying true. Um, So, I'm gonna surprise you with something here in a sec. But any other thoughts on Pokemon Go before we're gonna stay in the Pokemon realm? But
Oh, okay. No, let's move on. That's
okay.
fine.
So, are you familiar? I saw the trailer for it yesterday. Pokemon Go, or gosh, Pokemon Generations.
No.
Okay, so Pokemon Generations just got announced. 18. It's 18 shorts, um, spanning the entire through like every generation of Pokemon, and
Okay.
it's capturing. Each short is meant to highlight a particular moment in each generation's history, is my understanding.
So
Um,
it's an anime thing.
it's an anime thing, correct?
Okay.
So I think the first episode is out on the 19th. But the trailer just absolutely blew me away. It looks a little grittier, than you would see
Okay.
traditionally. So one of them,
They know we're all grown up now. So.
right? Exactly. So there's like a scene where Dragonite is fighting a red Gyarados. So it's like probably going to go into the capturing of red Gyarados.
Nice.
There's super new like legendaries I don't even know the name of and stuff, but the 3 legendary dogs and. But yeah, just looks like and I'm a little curious about this short format where it's going to be kind of bite-sized, but I almost feel like it's going to be kind of brilliant because if you think about what's it called?
They are
well, okay, they're
aging
3 to
like
5
Pokemon.
minutes, which is maybe a little shorter than I would like, but it's like if you were to just I'm a sucker for those like actiony animes and things like that, like Bleach and Naruto and whatever. But god damn it, if there weren't just like someone just abridged the show into like all of the epic fights or like all of the high moments, Whereas I think that's like kind of what Pokemon Generations is hopefully aiming to do is just be like, okay, the Red Gyarados part is sweet, but like the walk from that city to the next city is like let's not like make up content for that episode, So I have a confidence that and especially if it's 3 to 5 minutes, the animation's probably going to be stellar, like really high action and everything. So
that is exciting. Like a lot of my favorite. I mean, I know the first 2 generations are the ones I remember most fondly, and those just both have a lot of like really memorable like moments.
Yeah. So I don't know. From watching the trailer, I get the understanding that the moments are likely to come from the games rather than
the anime.
Right, just so that there's not kind of that overlap.
That's really cool to me.
They don't do Red Gyarados in the anime as far as I know, right?
I don't know, but I don't know. I think that sounds really cool.
Yeah. So, oh gosh, there should be.
Maybe there will be one about like encountering red, at the end of Gold and Silver, like that kind of thing.
Definitely, yeah.
That kind of thing. Like as far as I know, that was not in the anime. Maybe it was, but I don't know. That's a cool moment from the game for sure.
Yeah. So, if I'm remembering this correctly, the first episode should be out on the 19th. So that is next Monday. So we'll probably talk about that on our next podcast. We can let you know what we thought of that first episode there, and you'll probably have watched it too. Okay, cool. So we got our little Pokemon spurt in there. So this next segment is something we're going to try and do every episode. And the title is tentative, but it's called Games by Association right now. The basic idea is we're going to go to randomwordgenerator.com, hit generate, and it's going to give us a random word, and we are basically going to arc off in some radical tangent in a direction based off the word that we get. So without further ado, buckle up, and our word today is rent.
Rent.
Okay. So.
Okay. Well, I've got something. Have you got something?
Let's both present our ideas. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm thinking of there's this super, as far as I know, pretty obscure PlayStation game called I think it's called Board Game Top Shop. Let me Google this. Have you heard of this?
I have never heard of that.
So It was this game that my sister and I played a lot that we got from like Costco or something back in the day, you know. Um, and it essentially is just a board game where it takes place in a mall and you like choose your avatar and there's all these like goofy anime avatars.
Okay, I'm gonna bring up
And
some gameplay for the stream while you talk.
yeah, so and the reason that Ren made me think of that is because like the game, I don't remember extremely well, but the like the game revolves around I think like renting different shops in the mall. So there are like all these different kinds of shops that you can like kind of own. It's like a monopoly type thing. So there's like I'm just looking it up on Google right now. It looks like there's like cookie stores and
What was that?
uh,
You cut out
so
there for a
there's
minute.
there's just like different stores you can like rent in the mall, and like I think the goal is to like dominate the most stores or something. Um,
Oh, so it's a multiplayer thing.
yeah, it is like very much a board game style
Oh
game for
yeah, it looks like it's
PlayStation,
got some Mario Party elements to it.
but it's just dressed up with these like silly anime characters and everything, and like it's just a weird like one of those obscure games that I don't know. We just played it a lot, and it was goofy and funny.
That's awesome. Now,
So
now
that was
here's the real question, and can be the segue. Did you rent this game?
no, it was one of these games that was sold at Costco for like $20.
That is excellent. I would have never heard of this game. I'm pretty confident of that. So, Board Game Pro Shop. Check
No,
it
it's
out.
called board. It's Board Game Top Shop,
Top
which
Shop. Don't listen to me.
which is just. I mean, it's just the most like generic name ever. It's just an odd little game.
Do you still have this game?
Yeah, I think so. We could probably go find it in my house.
Okay. Well, I have that wonderful capture card. So, uh, no promises yet. We'll have to make sure we can track it down. But if we can, we will try and get a stream of Board Game Top Shop going for you guys at one of these days.
Yeah, it's a it's a obscure gem, that's for sure.
Awesome. Okay.
Now,
So,
what was your thought for Rent?
where I was going was I was just thinking video game rental in general, and I guess we could have that segue probably to cut it down a little. I think we all we've all rented games in the past, but is there a one that got away for you? Where it's like, or you just this one game that you rented this one time and you had this magical time with it, and you like always wish you had bought it since or anything like that.
Well, and then I like forgot what the game was called, and I like never saw it again.
Or you ended up buying it years later or anything like that.
I think I when I was a kid, I rented like this was for N64. This is another obscure gem, and this one's like it's probably not as obscure, but it's Mystical Ninja starring Gomon for the N64, and it's just like this game that just has so much like personality and just like this action platformer kind of adventure game. Um, and I think that I did rent that, and then I like loved it so much, and I eventually like tracked it down, and now I have it.
That's
So I guess
awesome.
that would be it.
Yeah, gosh, for me, so I didn't have an N64 growing up. So I was on the PlayStation side of things, but this one game called Monster Seed. It was this, which yeah, you've heard me talk about. Gosh, how do I describe it?
I remember that you played that a bunch.
I did. I found my way back to it.
Saw you play it, yeah.
So let's see. I played it when I was a kid, and then I had rented it just this one time. I think my brother probably rented it, and I'd watched him play. And I remember when I was being this little like, it's a pretty dark game at times. Like you enter at one point, you go into a castle, and there's just like torture equipment, and like guillotines and stuff,
Right.
and you can like just like inspect the guillotine, and it'll just be like, oh, like the blood is still fresh, like a head was just chopped off, and I was like. Dude, it's like 9 p.m. Like I'm about to go to bed, little me, like, and I was just thinking about this guillotine and
and this game was probably like rated E, right?
it's got to be T. I'm pretty sure.
No, I'm looking it up, dude. It's E.
It is.
Yeah,
You're
it's
kidding
like
me. That's awesome.
it's like funny. Yeah, it's like I feel like they kind of had things like slip through the cracks like that, like back then.
Okay, so I now have my tagline for how I would describe Monster Seed. It's like Pokemon meets Fire Emblem in this sense that like you are this one person, this like trainer, let's say, on like a grid like environment, and basically as you go into dungeons, every room is like square shaped or can be broken down into a grid of squares. And so that is your arena. So like some rooms are really tiny, other rooms are long and elaborate or have like obstacles running throughout them. But then you can encounter just wild monsters, or you can encounter other quote unquote trainers who also have the ability, like you do, to summon monsters. So you have kind of like these monsters that you obtain, and then you can summon them into battle. They will be an egg for one turn, and then they will hatch, and then it's basically just a fight to the death from there. So not a perfect game, but I still think kind of slid under the radar for a lot of people. Again, kind of has a weird audience in that it's like kind of pulling these Pokemon similarities and things, but it's a little bit grittier. I would say the story and the writing is probably a little uninspired or like underdeveloped on it.
Or I mean, probably like translated wrong.
Very much could be. But I thought the monsters were just a ton of fun, like very cool. What very cool style and everything. Like the monsters felt creative. They didn't just feel like they could have been Pokemon or anything.
Right.
Here, I'm gonna get a little bit of gameplay going while we talk here. Oh well, this is at the end of the game. Hold on, we don't want spoilers for anyone. Oh yeah, okay. This has got to have some gameplay in it. But yeah, old PS1 classic. And so here's some of the monsters. I ended up buying this game on eBay for like 50 or 60 bucks, like a pretty penny, because it was after the fact. And I just had a hankering, man. It was this game I rented that got away. So
it's one of those obscure titles, man.
Ended up doing that. I now hold on to that. And last of all, I ended up most recently emulating it just because I didn't have my PS1 set up anymore. And then I did finally get my chance to beat it. Oh my god, this is some DBZ crap right here. It was really, really fun stuff, but kind of cool. And there's the basic gist of whatchamacallit, our games by association segment.
So we hit Board Game Top Shop, we hit Mystical Ninja starring Gomon, and we hit Monster Seed right there.
Yep. So, wow. So, we definitely got, we just started with a hidden gem, but some great games to check out. I can highly recommend Monster Seed if you're into Fire Emblem. Probably not just Pokemon, but maybe just kind of JRPGs and things like that. Very cool, good little throwback.
Recommend Mystical Ninja just because, I mean, it is a fun game and everything, but it's just hilarious. If you like hilarious things, you'll like that. Board Game Top Shop's cool too.
All right, so with that, I think we're going to go ahead and sign off here for the first episode of the Splatt Show. Yeah, thank you so much, anyone who gave this a listen. We really appreciate it. You can follow. We don't have a Twitter account for the show right now, but if you like, you can give either of us a follow. I'm on Twitter at Hayden_Platt, and my buddy Sam here is at Sam Aguera, Aguera. Right?
Yep.
Haha. All right, A+. Before we sign off, I would like to say we do have an email address, though. So if you have any, we'd love to answer some questions on the next show, and we're dying for feedback on kind of our format and our pacing and everything, and whatever you want to tell us. So please, any questions or feedback, you can go ahead and send that to thesplatshow@gmail.com. That's the splatshow@gmail.com. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. We're gonna have this. This is Wednesday episode, so I imagine we'll probably try and keep Wednesdays if we can, just for the sake of simplicity.
Because it's hump day, man. You needed that splat in your life to get through the week.
Yeah. All right. What he said. All right. Thanks again.